Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Politics Lab on YouTube. My name is Bill Muck. I'm a professor of political science at North Central College, and I'm joined, as always, by Dr. Phil Barker, a professor of political science at Keene State College. Hey, Phil.
Hey, Bill. How was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, lots of ham. How was the brine to turkey?
It was pretty good. It was pretty good. You had asked me last week whether I really like turkey, and I said I kind of do.
Yeah,
I don't know so much. It's just all right.
got to make the jump to ham. Oh,
That's
the
true.
smoked ham was just fantastic. So
Yeah.
it's a good meat.
Yeah.
All right, for our quick topic today, we're going to look at some recent developments in the Justice Department at the Trump campaign or Trump administration, specifically the pardoning of Michael Flynn. This was Donald Trump's first national security advisor who was in the office for a couple of weeks. He admitted to lying to the FBI twice. And the DOJ ultimately tried to pull those charges back, and Trump pardoned him since we last met. And the other interesting angle is quietly the Department of Justice is reinstating some death penalty techniques, including firing squads and gas chambers, Phil Barker. Not getting a lot of headlines, but an interesting development. So what do you make of all of what's going on in the Trump legal department?
There's lots of angles to this. I mean, part of at the center of it is this idea that we can talk about, which is the Trump notion of justice, right? Which is trying to people who quote unquote deserve it. We're gonna bring back firing squads and all of that, and then cronies, friends of his who don't deserve it. Like his notion of justice is about like protecting people who are loyal to him and punishing people who he has some problem with, which is not justice. So that's part of it all. But I mean, I think that the Mike Flynn stuff is getting some news coverage, but it's a really big deal, and I think it's worth dwelling on for a little bit, because it's not just that he lied to the FBI multiple times. He lied about stuff he was doing. He was operating as an agent for a foreign country, for Turkey, while he was in the US government. So, I mean, that's like straight up, he was literally a double agent, right? He was working for another country while he was in. So it's not that, the pardon, the power of the pardon is a weird thing anyway. It's a strange, we could have a whole debate about whether it should even exist, but the whole idea is that it's there to undo injustices, right? People who have been in some way unfairly targeted or punished, or they've been, oppressed by the system or whatever. It's there to right wrongs. And this is being used for the exact opposite purpose, right? It is so clear that basically Mike Flynn protected Trump, and so Trump rewarded him, right? It is like quid pro quo. It is abuse of power, right? Abuse of power is he has this power of the pardon. Abuse of power means you have used one of your powers inappropriately, and it's so clearly that. So I mean, it's all of that points to, again, Trump's notion of justice and who should be protected. I think maybe the one positive sign of this is that if Trump's moving on to pardoning his cronies, that's probably a sign that he's, at least coming more to terms with the idea that he has a limited amount of time left in office. What do you think of all of it?
Yeah, no, all of that is spot on, right? I mean, the contrast just hits you in the face where he's talking, these sort of symbolic law and order stuff, like I'm bringing back the death penalty because I'm going to hold, I mean, not death penalty, but, firing squads because I'm going to hold criminals accountable, while I simultaneously pardon everybody in my administration, including likely himself at the end, right? I mean,
Right.
just the contrast, the hypocrisy of is there. The Flynn case is really fascinating to me. Flynn admitted he lied to the FBI twice. And then, this case moves forward. He's going to be found guilty until the Department of Justice and Bill Barr intervened to say, even though this guy has admitted guilt twice, we're no longer going to charge him. I mean, that's extraordinary. So they pull this back. The judge in the case says, no way am I allowing these shenanigans to happen. And so he's been intervening, trying to say, is this legit for the DOJ to do this? And then Trump comes in and pardons him. So it's all just awful, sweep it under the rug. And you're right, Flynn is no hero. This is a guy who was, working on behalf of Turkey. His conversations with Kislyak, the Russian ambassador, were all about what was going to happen with sanctions. Like in a normal world, a nonpartisan, non-Trump world, the country would have been outraged at this. But because of all the partisanship, we forget it. And this is the first of what's going to be multiple different pardons. He's already gotten Roger Stone, now Flynn. It's going to be the family, everybody. It's always despicable when presidents do this at the end of their administration. And in true Trump fashion, this is going to be more extraordinary, more awful than anybody else.
It's a weird way. I mean, it kind of highlights the strange way that Trump has been able to twist the notion of patriotism, right? I mean, a lot of this last 4 years is he's been able to tweak it so that, supporting Trump or being a Trump supporter is what makes you a good American. Lots of his attacks are that way. But this is a classic example. Flynn is a villain in any sort of American story, right? For the conservative movement that is big on patriotism and duty to country, like, he is the opposite of all of that. And now we're like cheering, people around Trump are cheering his pardon as a vindication of this guy who has been wronged in some way. It is a strange, it's a good example of the way the ground has sort of shifted in the last 4 years. And it'll be interesting to see how that goes back, if it shifts back. Yeah, I mean, it is both puzzling and unsurprising at the same time.
And the irony of it, he was the guy going all the way back to the 2016 campaign at the Republican convention, was leading chants of lock her up about Hillary Clinton, right? I mean, so he's the guy saying we should be locking other people up. He gets himself in trouble and then is pardoned by it. So it's, we're going to look back 25, 50 years from now and not be able to make sense of all of this. And another kind of deeper level, as we get more time and space away from the Mueller investigation, the more weighty these things feel. Once we can pull back from some of the partisanship, I mean, like you said, Flynn is a villain. This is, he did things that were just clearly against the law. And it's not entirely clear. We still don't know why he lied. We can get into the weeds at some other point, but why did he cover these conversations up? What he had done was not all that terrible. I mean, it gets to the issue of, can you be discussing foreign policy before you take power? That's a minor infringement. Nobody gets charged with that. So why is he lying to the FBI about that? Probably because there's more there, right? There's something about he was afraid of Trump. So, I mean, all of it is just bad news. And the more time and distance we get from this, we see that, Trump really was just awful throughout this Mueller investigation.
Yeah, all of this is that weird form of negative partisanship, in that this person was good to me, was on my side, and so therefore they're good, as opposed to people who were opposed to me and therefore they're bad. The idea of like independent justice, that we look at the facts and figure out who has violated the law, has just been so brutalized in the last 4 years. It'll be interesting to see if we can get back to that old way of doing things, and how. One of the interesting side effects of this is that now that Flynn has been pardoned, he can't plead the fifth. So yeah. I've already seen members of Congress, talking about calling him in to have him testify. So he can't avoid questions anymore. Now, he can still commit plagiarism, right? He can still lie, but then he faces, if that can be proven that he lied about that, then he faces, further charges. So, I mean, I don't think we've heard the end of this whole thing. We'll probably talk at some point on the podcast about how how do you handle, going back and investigating these sorts of legal issues from the Trump years once we move past it, and how do we do that as a country? But we will have a lot to sort through over the coming years about what was done during the Trump administration and how we move forward from it.
Right. And it'll be interesting to see, like we said earlier, this is the first of many pardons to come, which means that there's going to be a lot of individuals who no longer can hide, right? They're going to have to answer questions. And then the ultimate question is whether Trump is successful in pardoning himself. I don't know where the Supreme Court is going to land on that, but I think it's likely it'll get to them. And in between, right? But now, before Trump leaves office, there are going to be 5 more executions, kind of circling back to this. He's going to push that conception of law and order while he's undermining another one. So the contrast in the Trump administration are always stunning.
Yeah. That'll all probably be undone, right? But Joe Biden's going to reinstate the ban on federal executions and some of this other stuff. But the pardon of Flynn can't be undone. That's right. The way it is. So.
They're absolutely, and there's some people saying that shouldn't be the case, but no, that these pardons are absolute. So Flynn is pardoned, and these other individuals who get them will also be free of any prosecution. So it's a big deal. So, well, we can maybe get more into this in the episode on Wednesday, but a lot of fun, Barker.
Good seeing you, Bill.
Bye-bye.
Bye.